Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to talk about cooperatives in Egypt. So we'll try as much as we can to shed the light on the cooperatives in Egypt, and I wish to reach results and added recommendations. The title of the session is the activation of the role of the cooperatives in Egypt. We are going to start with a presentation. Then we are going to take the comments, but I would like to start first of all by introducing the panelists. I would like to start with Akmal Negati, the parliamentarian and the member of the Financial and Investment Committee and the Committee of Ending Conflict, actually being a member of this committee. So you are a very great man, because everybody is suffering or facing a conflict. The second speaker is Mr. Sharif Sami. Mr. Sharif Sami, the former director of the Egyptian Financial Regulatory Authority, and from among ولدينا معنا أيضا السيد جوست جايجر. دائما لا أستطيع قول اسمك الأخير. أنت صديقي يوست. يوست هو المستشار الاقتصادي للسفارة الهولندية في نيودلهي في الهند من 2019. هو كان يخدم في القطاع الاقتصادي للسفارة الهولندية في مصر من 2012 إلى 2019. لقد درس في جامعة هولندا، ومشروع التخرج كان على نظم الزراعة والري في هولندا، وتقلد العديد من المناصب من بينها مستشار للبنك الدولي، وقام بعدد من الأبحاث في كوسوفو والبنيا. إنه من دواعي سرورنا أن تكون معنا صديقي يوستو. عندما كان في القاهرة بذل جهد رائع لمساعدة القطاع الزراعي في مصر. أنا أتذكر كان من وقت بعيد، ولكنه كان وقت ثمين للغاية. We are going to start the presentation. لابد أن أعتذر يوست لبدئنا متأخرا. كنا ننتظر الأستاذ أحمد عبد الظاهر، فأعتذر لك عن هذا التأخير. We are going to start our presentation that we conducted here in the ECES, a brief study. In order to then we are going to open the discussion between the panels. Dr. Saad Nassar is apologizing for not coming. He is sick and he has got fever. So I told him, no, have a rest and don't come, have a rest. So I wish him a speed recovery. So the components of our study, the title is the activation of the role of the cooperatives in Egypt, and are the efforts in the correct path or not? This is the very important question, and this is a cooperation between ECES and SAIP Association, represented in Mr. Saif Al-Khawaika, and I think he is with us on the Zoom platform, and we have also Mrs. Farida from SAIP. We are going to ask some questions. Why we are asking, are the efforts in the correct path or not? What is the importance of the cooperatives section, the description of the cooperatives briefly in Egypt, an overview on the current efforts, which is related to the name of Mr. Akmal, because this is the recommendation of Mr. Akmal. So I wish that our words are light on you, and the philosophy of the correct improvement for the cooperatives. And we have specific suggestions. Let's call it reform, let's call it improvement. Please, why we are asking this? Because three main realities. First of all, the sector of cooperatives is not active. This is a fact, facing lots of problems and needs lots of improvement. The other reality is that the current phase and the future phase, we need to have a very strong cooperative sectors in order to co-op with the SMEs to help the informal sector to penetrate the market. So we need it in the current time and in the future. And actually, there is an effort exerted by the state to improve the cooperatives, so we need to stop in order to make sure that these efforts are in the correct path, to make sure that we are really doing a real improvement. The importance of the cooperatives, this sentence was said by the ILO director in the International Day of Cooperatives in the year 2020. It says simply, cooperatives and other integrated social economic associations is a very important part of the solutions to face the challenges. As we said, we always want to go back before the COVID, before the pandemic. So we have to focus on the cooperatives and how they serve the society. And there is a kind of celebration every year. What is a cooperative? The cooperatives are independent association. Every single word has a single meaning. And if we put this in our consideration, everything will be solved. Independent of a group of people that they voluntarily unify to fulfill their own needs and their own economic, social, cultural expectations through a project that is owned by all of them and is managed in a democratic way. This is the basic definition of a cooperative. A group of people, social participation, and an economic benefits. Although that they are from a small group of people, how can they participate if the cooperatives are activated to enhance economy, to provide job opportunities, to enhance and consolidate the social participation, to enhance including the informal sector and facing crises like COVID and others. And that's what happened all over the world. What is the situation of the cooperatives as an economic model? It's there in 98 countries all over the world. The members are about 3 billion members. Less than half of the world population. The number of the cooperatives, there are 3 million cooperatives with a revenue $3 trillion. We are talking about a massive business, and according to the estimates number of the ILO, they create job opportunities, about 280 million jobs. So the geographic distribution, they are all over the world. Europe is considered the biggest continent for the cooperatives, then USA. In Germany, we have 7,000 cooperatives, 9 million members. France, we are talking about a very massive body. And in Netherlands also is a very successful model and a very success story. The cooperatives in the field in insurance are the highest level, then agriculture cooperatives, food production, and then we have the retail and the wholesale cooperatives. The current situation in Egypt, we have lots of cooperatives. We have 14,000 cooperatives, 10 million members, and 40 million Egyptian pounds till the year 2030. So we are not 2020. Each type of cooperatives has a specific law and a specific body to supervise. So let's focus here. Half of the cooperatives in Egypt, they are agriculture cooperatives. And the cooperatives, the agriculture cooperatives are in Lower Egypt because of the cultivated land. There is an article in the Constitution, article number 37 in the Constitution of 2014, that I was honored to be part of those who wrote the Constitution. This article tackled that the ownership is protected, and the state is protecting the cooperatives, and the law assures the independency of the cooperatives. So here we are talking about, from the Constitution point of view, if you are talking about the legal framework of the cooperatives, there is a huge support to the cooperatives, and there is an article in the Constitution tackling this. There is a group of laws that organize and regulate the cooperatives. There is law number 13 for the year 1956, and after this, each cooperative has a different law. We have a law for the consumer cooperatives, and it's under the supervision of the Ministry of Supply and Internal Trade. Every cooperative has a specific federation that supervises the work. We are talking about the year 1975, 80, 81, 83, and 90. This is the newest law and the recent law. Then we have the General Federation of the Cooperatives, organized by the law of the year 1984, that supervise all the cooperatives except one, and I don't know the reason, which are the educational cooperatives, and this has nothing to do with the federation. It's clear? So to continue about the legal framework, we have multi-administrative bodies that they do control the cooperatives. If we look at the laws, we found that the authority of the Central Accountability Authority, it varies from one cooperative to another. The conditions of membership differ from one cooperative to another. Incentives, the supervision, the authority, the conditions for being in the board of trustees, it varies from cooperative and another. If we look generally on the agriculture cooperatives, it's organized by the law 122. We conducted a study on the agriculture cooperatives. It's uploaded on the website, the structure, the financial aspect, the management under the supervision of the Ministry of Agriculture, and the cooperatives for agriculture reform is under the supervision of. We are talking about the classification of the departments. We are talking here about a very wide structure. Each type, it has a specific supervision from the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation. Each one of them is supervised by the upper level, in addition to its own mission and its own mandate. We are talking about a very complicated institutional framework. We did a kind of a comparison between the system in Egypt and the best practices all over the world. We focused on the Netherlands case, and we found that the cooperatives in Egypt, they are governmental entity with a very institutional, complicated system. And this will make it an executive arm for the government that will reduce the opportunities and will reduce the members, the feeling of the members that they own the cooperatives. And although these cooperatives are spread all over the Egyptian governments, but they were not active at any time. They are entities, but they are marginalized in the field of agriculture and in enhancing the standard of living of the farmers. So no one is benefiting from the cooperatives. The effort of improving and developing, that Mr. Amgad is totally responsible of this. We have policies, we have objectives, and we have factors that they are related to the goals. We have some points that they are related to the national policy, the national Egyptian policy for the cooperatives, improving the sector, achieving the social development, the sustainable development, the economic sustainable development, achieving the goals of the Egyptian Vision 2030, creating job opportunities, encouraging investment, enhancing the social situation through providing services and empowering women. Then we have a point which is a recommendation for a complete, a comprehensive and inclusive legislative frame to issue a unified law that co-op with the situation, the current situation and the future situation as well, and implementing the international criteria. All of this is mentioned, specifying the election, who is going to be elected, also from among the pillars, the future strategy to be an active strategy according on the current conditions and the future condition and circumstances. We have the goals, we have the recommendations, they are all similar. And the added value and the value chain to enhance the geographical distribution, to improve the production, to improve the services that the community needs, to analyze the market, the opportunities, the competitors, to enhance the opportunities for distributing the products. Not all the points were analyzed, but these are the points that we need to work on, and we need a restructure for the department, for the sector. So this document is available. That was conducted by Mr. Akmal. So we want now to talk about the most important point, the philosophy of the proper, the correct, the right way of improving the sector. We have three main principles. First of all, to go back to the original definition of the cooperatives. So I'm going to do a kind of a reform. So I need to go back to the original definition of the cooperatives. Number two, to benefit from the best practices in the field of cooperatives. On the top of that, Netherlands. And before putting any kind of action plan or any kind of a strategy, reform strategy or a development or improvement strategy, without making sure that we are going to implement it. The main or the original definition of the cooperatives, we have the main ethics and principles. As we said, they are non-governmental institutions, that they are established by individuals, that they group together by their own will. So we don't have the government at all. The government is a supporter and an organizer that provide services according to the needs of the cooperatives, and it's identified according to the joint interest of both of them. And there is no obligation at all, and the funding resources are from the membership, the services and loans. To have one legislation or a group of legislations that will assure the rights of the members of the cooperatives. The idea is that a group of people that they are working together, I have to assure the rights. So I am, as the government, I'm there to assure the rights, not to be part of the decision, to have the minimum of the governmental interference, the highest level of the decentralized and the highest level of democracy. If we looked at this and then we set a group of recommendation, first of all, we are going to say we suggest and we recommend to identify the gap between the cooperatives in Egypt and the best international practices. What Mr. Akmal wrote, we do a kind of evaluation for the current situation and do a kind of comparison of what? Of the best international practices. So we suggest this. We also highly recommend to postpone any kind of amendment in the institutional structure until we identify the gap, because the current vision is trying to improve through the same system and through the same structure, and this doesn't make sense at all. Again, to postpone any kind of amendment in the institutional structure, because as we said, we are trying to improve through the same system, through the same entities, and by this will never happen. The same people that they benefit from the current situation are the people that I ask them to come and do the reform. And they know very well that he's not strong at all. I'm asking him to do this and he's not capable of doing this. Also, we have to make sure to, meaning that it's very wrong to come now. I say that I need to scale it up, to encourage the women to be members. How you are going to do this? And the system is not good. So here we are talking about resources. Here we are talking about points that they are not available and they are not in a good condition. We have to evaluate the performance that should be done from an external entity, not from inside, not from the cooperative itself. The internal committee is going to do the evaluation. Doesn't make sense again. The evaluation, the assessment should be done from an external entity. We have to differentiate between the nature of the cooperatives and the association. Like the law that was drafted for the cooperatives, we have to bear in mind that there is a big difference between the cooperatives and the association, because this is actually a risk. This is a problem, will make us face lots of problems, especially those who add the details of the definition. You will find yourself in a totally different story. Whatever I'm talking about is totally different than whatever you're thinking about. Do not do a kind of connection between the vision and the Egyptian Vision 2030. Why? Because we already have problems in the Egyptian Vision 2030 and we are working on amending the Egyptian Vision 2030. Please turn off your telephone, your mobile phone. We don't have a clear path to talk about, but the most important thing is that the cooperatives is an economic model, economic business model. This is a tool. It is not a target. It is not an objective to connect it with the Egyptian Vision 2030. The idea is to use the tool, whatever economic vision I have, to identify the needs of the cooperatives, the products, how to distribute it, how to manage it. We have things here to identify what are the needs of the market, what the needs of the geographic area, how we are going to market. This is not our work at all. This is the work of the cooperatives, and this is part of the problem that we face in Egypt continuously. The problem of the Industrial Development Authority, they faced the same problem. I established a project, I have a contract, I have the land. If I failed, if I lose my money, this is my own problem. But it is not your right to come and interfere, telling me put this machine here and put this device there. The organizing structure for the cooperatives, to set an organizing structure for the cooperatives. What I'm afraid of, that the easiest part of the recommendation is what is going to be implemented. And actually, I'm definitely sure that this is not what you had in mind. So this is briefly our presentation. And then we are going to start the comments. So thank you so much for listening.